And I'll love to see how you are performing this week, helping your team perform and helping to herd those ducks.
Hi, and welcome to Helping You Perform. I'm your host, Paul Teasdale. Over a career working with high-performing teams from across the globe, including 7 years working with Formula One team McLaren, I've learned a lot about what it takes to drive results. In this weekly podcast series, I'm going to be bringing you tips, tricks, and insights from the world of Formula One that you can apply to your organisation for your high performance. Enjoy.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Helping You Perform, where I bring my tips, tricks, insights, and stories from the world of F1 and beyond to help you accelerate your own performance. I hope you enjoyed last week's episode, episode number 80, where I talked about the power of connections and maintaining those networks and connections that you've got. So if you haven't had a listen to that episode, I do recommend going back, having a listen to that episode. But this week, I wanted to talk about something completely different. This is an experience that I had that I never thought I was going to say these words, but I've been herding ducks. Now, I've heard the expression, it's like herding cats. I've used it myself in the past, whether it's at home with the kids or at work with one of those projects where whatever you're trying to do, something's always going off in a different direction. And it's like herding cats. It's like trying to get the uncontrollables under control. Now, my experience was herding ducks. Now, this was on an away day, and as part of that away day, we had an experience where a shepherd came along with about half a dozen of his dogs, and they were all trained, much like them sort of sheep herding, but they actually had ducks that they used for the demonstrations and for the participation to help show the capabilities of those dogs. And I'm sure the ducks would just seem a little bit more compliant and in control, to be honest. But the dogs and how they reacted, the different personalities, and how they learned their own little phrases. Some had whistles, some had noises, some had sayings that sort of direct them to go left or right. And these dogs had not only learned that from their shepherd, the guy who had trained them, but had actually learned how to do this, taking on those instructions from anybody. So myself and the team that I was with, some of us were whistling, some of us had those little phrases, and we were watching these dogs performing this sort of really high performance uh, piece of work on their side, which is actually herding these ducks. Not an easy task in its own right, but listening to instructions and listening to instructions from people they're not used to listening to those instructions from either. So they're not used to the voice, not used to the tone, but still, because the instructions were so clear to them, they were able to take on those instructions and actually do something with it. I took a lot from this experience. One, it was great fun. It was amazing how much fun we had as a team, just trying to get these dogs to move these geese and ducks, sorry, around this field that we were in. But also just how much we can learn from that situation in terms of, instructions, how simple yet effective instructions can really help people to perform at their best. But also, one of the things that I noticed was out of the six dogs that were there, some were really flighty, some were quite needy and were always looking to their trainer for that next level of instruction or for clarity. And some of them were sort of were running all the way around the field and doing all this crazy running around, and some were very controlled in what they did. But ultimately, they all did the same job. And for me, that spoke about, individuals can be high performing while still putting their own flavor on the work that they do. They can learn from each other, they can take those instructions and they can listen to instructions and move on as a team without having it to be completely robotic and exactly the same as somebody else doing the role. So, loads to learn from this really varied and weird experience that I had, but I loved it. And I loved reflecting on that experience of herding ducks. And I'm just wondering this week, the question to you all is what's your experience? Have you ever had that experience of herding ducks? Have you ever felt like you were herding cats? What have you learned in those situations to help you give instructions, perform at your best, get different people to perform in a different way, using slightly different directions or slightly different approaches to the same task? And just wanted you to reflect on that situation and just share your thoughts, share some of your questions and challenges, and hopefully we'll all have a think about how we can all experience herding duck this week. So, as always, I hope this has been of some value, has sort of got you thinking in a slightly different way this week. If you do want to get in touch, do go to paulteasdale.co.uk, drop me a line, we'll set up some time, we'll have a chat, and I'll love to see how you are performing this week, helping your team perform and helping to herd those ducks. And I'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Helping You Perform podcast. If you found value in this episode, please take a moment to like, share, or review the podcast. You can reach out to me at any time, either through LinkedIn or through my website at www.paulteasdale.co.uk. I look forward to speaking to you in the next episode.